How's it going, guys? Tyler again with another video on Patterson DIY. Today we're going to be showing you how I built this shelf here. I filmed this last week and I had a problem where I was planning on doing two shelves, but I had a problem with the joists up above in the ceiling on this part of my garage. So I ended up only having one shelf be built, so there'll be a little bit of back and forth between those two. Hope you guys can follow along, but I'm gonna end up building this shelf in the end and talk about what I'm gonna do for the shelf over here, which I'm gonna do in a net video for next week. All right, let's get started. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and please like and subscribe if you find it helpful. All right, guys, so I'm back from the hardware store, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I have here. So this will vary depending on what your project or what your space is like. But basically for me, I have this little indent in the wall that comes back out 2 inches. So I have to account for that in my shelf. I'm gonna have 2 6-foot shelves, and I'm gonna be adding them onto this later, but I'm not gonna be doing that in today's video. I'm gonna have 2 6-foot long shelves. The one next to the garage door will be 2 inches shallower than the one that is closer to the back wall. So I will have that one be a little bit shorter, and that's part of the reason I have a couple of these 2 pieces here, that one of them is 58 inches and one of them is 14. And so I'm gonna have those overlap and create the box in that way so that it can fit around this corner here, because it will be partially on that. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting together the box first. Kind of once I have it laid out, I'll kind of pick this back up and show you guys how that looks before I start screwing things in. Okay, so this is something like what I will have in the end. I have it laid out here just without it being attached or anything like that. So how these are going to be attached is I'm going to use 2.5-inch screws and just drill from the 2x4s into these supports. And these are the 12-inch supports to make the total depth of around 15-inch shelf. So the first thing I'm going to do here is start drilling the pilot holes and marking out 3 feet from the ends to find the middle, and then drill the pilot holes for each of them. Okay, so I have the countersunk holes drilled into the wood on the 3 spots that the 6-foot boards will be mounted to the supports. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and clamp them together so that I can get them nice and squared up before I start screwing them together. All right, so I have this piece put together now. This was pretty simple to do. Just drilled two screws into each 2x4 there. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get the second one done, and it will be basically the same steps minus one part where I have to get it to wrap around the corner. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on that and get back to you guys once that's done. Okay, so I have the 2 frames built now, and now really all there is to it is figuring out where I need to mount them onto the wall. Alright guys, so the first thing I'm going to do here is mark on the wall 27.5 inches down from the ceiling, because that's where the bottom of my shelf braces will be. So I put those marks on the wall here, one right there, and there's another one down there. Next thing I'm going to do is take a level like this and just draw a straight line across there so I have a reference line to reference. So I have the line drawn on the ceiling. So now that I have the line drawn, I know where the board is going to line up. I'm going to go ahead and find all of the stud locations that I will be able to drill into and mark those now. Okay, so it's been a few days, and I went to try and find those stud locations last week, and found that the studs that are on this side of my garage, the front part, like where the shelf is, there's actually no studs that run, I guess, parallel to the door, so I could find studs that are perpendicular to the shelves. So the stud that goes this direction isn't lined up with where I need it to be. So what I've decided to do is take a couple ideas that I've seen online. Instead of hanging the shelves from the ceiling, I'm going to build some angle brackets that go underneath the shelf at 45-degree angles to support the weight of the shelf, and that should be really strong and be able to hold everything up properly. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the angles on the piece that is going to be one of the braces, so I can get one of them mapped out and then be able to trace those onto other pieces and cut those exactly the same way. Alright, so I have cut that piece out now using the coping saw, and the miter jig, and I found it kind of difficult towards the end to cut through the whole piece, so I just took it off and finished the cut at the end. It does take a little bit of manual labor, but this is all I've got right now, and it shows that this is possible even if you don't have really fancy tools. So now what I'm going to do is this cut right here. I'll show a picture right now of what it looks like if I don't take that off. It kind of sticks below the bottom of the shelf, and I want it to be more flush. So I marked the board right here for how much it sticks out, and then took that measurement and took it over to here. So I'm going to take that much off the board, and I'll go ahead and do that right now and show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so I have that cut out now. Here's a picture of what it looks like whenever it's held up to the shelf. So as you can see, it's flush mounted now, and it doesn't extrude from the bottom of the shelf, which is what I was going for, and it'll allow for more contact with the wood to give it the most support that it can. So now I'm going to go ahead and figure out what the other side of the board will look like. The idea is that this part will go and rest on top of the 2x4 mounted to the wall below it, and it'll be notched out somewhere like this. Not 100% sure which way. It'll either be from over here down or from up here and go this way. Okay, so in order to do this, I mounted the piece that I just cut onto the shelf itself, and now I have a level there. I'm going to mark a line where the wall would be, just straight perpendicular from the shelf, and use that line as a guide for where I need to cut out for the 2x4. Alright, so you can see my lines there. Those two lines that go straight down and across where the 2x4 will sit. I used a spare piece of wood, and 2x4s are generally pretty close to each other, but I think as long as it's pretty close, it should be okay. And if anything's unlevel, you could always unscrew those and screw them into a spot that will make the whole entire shelf level. I think this should be plenty enough support, so I'm going to go ahead and use a jigsaw this time and cut out this piece here, and hopefully I can just map this piece onto the other pieces. I think I need 4 of them for this shelf, so I'm going to go ahead and get that done and show you guys the finished product once this one is finished. Alright, so here's our final piece. I measured it for squaring, and it all seems to line up pretty well, at least close enough to where it should be okay. Maybe you have to make a few minor adjustments like trimming an edge over here if it's a little bit too long. So I think it will work for now. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and copy this piece onto 3 more pieces so I can get this first shelf put up. Alright, so now I have all 4 of them cut out. I went ahead and test fitted a 2x4 just on the side here in order to get an idea of if it will work on the fitment, and it looks like all of the edges line up pretty well, and over here they line up okay. As long as I can kind of get them in a close spot and be able to screw them in, I should be okay there, and hopefully be able to level off the top the best I can. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is mount these pieces up here onto the shelf and try and kind of map out where the 2x4 will go on and how I want to get this set up. Okay, so I have all 4 of these mounted onto the shelf, and the way that I put them on there was I put 2 screws for now through each of them into the 2x4s, and I used a square to make sure that everything got nice and square at a 45-degree angle. Now I have test fitted this 6-foot board here. And this 6-foot board will be the support on the bottom of the shelf, so right now this whole shelf is upside down. I'm trying to figure out how I want to mount this, and I think the best way will be to go ahead and mount this now, and then try to mount the entire shelf onto the wall at the same time. Alright, so now I have the 2x4 attached to the 4 legs there, and there is like a little bit of gappage around these areas. I'm not really too worried about that. I went ahead and put 2 screws into each of them. I think that should hold. So now what I'm going to do is figure out a way to get these on the wall. Once I know how to put these on the wall, I'm going to come back to you guys and show you what I did, so that hopefully you guys can have some help with this in the future, because all of this wood is pretty heavy. So lifting it up, I already lifted it up once. Getting it all the way up there is going to be definitely a challenge, so I might have to recruit some help. But I think this will end up working, and I will get back to you guys once I get it figured out. Okay, so I think I figured it out. what I'm gonna do is I put a 2x4 here that is shorter than the height that I need. Used one screw on each of the 2x4s here so that I can pivot, so I can adjust the height that it will be at while I mount the shelf. And then what I have to hold it up onto the wall is I put a couple of 2x4s just with one screw in them, so I can rotate those as well and adjust the height that they'll be screwing into the wall. And then what this line is here is where the bottom of the 2x4 for the shelf part here will be mounted. So once I have that lined up, I'll be able to screw the rest of this in, no problem. Even if it's not 100% square, it should work out just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get this thing up there. Sorry for the video quality. The lighting isn't too good in here, so the camera's getting a little fuzzy here and there. Doesn't really know what to focus on. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this done and get back to you guys in a little bit. So I have it up there on the wall, and as you can see, that angled support definitely helps out there so I can get it to where it needs to be, and it's actually holding it up there on its own. Not very sturdy, but I'm gonna go ahead and get some screws and start screwing the top in once I have that 100% level, and I will get back to you guys once I have those screws in. Oh, and just so you know, to screw into the wall, I'm going to be using 3 1/4 inch construction screws. I feel like these should be plenty strong to hold up the shelf. That's the same screws I've been using to screw all of these into the wall and into the ceiling, and I haven't had any issues, and these are perfectly strong enough. I just put 2 screws into each stud, and I haven't needed to put any more support on them. They all seem to be holding fairly well. Okay, so I have 2 screws into the top bar there. It is level on the back wall, so now what I need to do is make sure that the front is level once I screw in the bottom piece. But for now, what I'm gonna go ahead and do, now that that back part is level, is screw in all of the front pieces, I'm gonna go ahead and screw in all of the screws into the studs on the top there. I'll have 2 per stud, and I will get back to you guys once I'm trying to figure out how to level the front of the shelf. Alright guys, I have all the screws into the wall for the shelf, and I already put the OSB on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and get up there and drill a few pilot holes where I could put some 1 1/4 inch screws through that 1/2 inch ODB. Okay, so it's been a few days since I built this shelf, and I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of how it looks. Right now I just have a few things up there. We'll be putting more stuff up there. But right now I have a few things up here. I actually added a little rack here, or L bracket, to hold our hose and all of that, and put some stuff up for my helmet and whatnot. But that is basically what it looks like. I have it level with the garage door so that I can fit boxes over the top of that really easy, and anything that extrudes from it will easily pass over the top where the garage door would go, which is going to be pretty nice for us. And I did give it a hang test, so it does work fairly well. It can hold my weight. I'm pretty sure it'll hold anything we decide to throw up there. Anyway, if you're still around, please consider liking and subscribing. I hope you found this helpful and will consider subscribing to my channel to see more projects like this in the future.